Brian Howie is in the house. We're going to have a great love debate. You've got an extraordinary podcast, right? All about love, relationships, the debate. I'm sure it gets heated.
It gets feisty, it gets funny. We have done 348 live shows all around the world, and we've done the podcast for about 3 or 4 years, and it's the conversation that keeps giving. There's a lot of ways to sort of slice this apple.
Brian, I'm wondering for you, what was the catalyst on wanting to create this global conversation, this love debate?
Curiosity, a little bit, my own curiosity, my own journey. About 5 years ago, I wrote a book that was semi-tongue-in-cheek called How to Find Love in 60 Seconds. And rather than sort of doing a book tour with a couple dozen people in a Barnes & Noble or something like that, my manager at the time had the idea to raise the questions that the book raised in sort of an open town hall style format. We were supposed to do 1, and then 3, and then 5 in 5 years, and 87 cities, and it's gone all over the place.
So tell us about when you have one of these events, what does it look like?
There's a couple hundred people in a theater or in a comedy club, depending on what the venue is. We have a handful of local personalities or celebrities on our stage, and the first question I ask the audience is the biggest challenge with love, dating, and relationships in 2018 in whatever city that is what? Hand goes up, and it goes from there, and it goes in all sorts of directions. It's very interactive. It's town hall style.
What would you say the common answer is?
People tend to, the most common answer that they give is technology or social media or dating apps, and that's not the answer. That's the reaction to the actual answer, and the actual answer is that as men and women, there's sort of been this blurring of the traditional dating gender roles over the last 20 years. The women have gotten a little harder, the men have gotten a little softer, and the gap is the technology that we fill in. And so wherever we go, as I always say, the women want the men to try harder, and the men want the women to make it easier, and that's where we're at, no matter where we go.
That is so true. Recently, dating as a single woman in LA, I've had several people say, do you want to do business, or did you want to have a relationship? Because you're coming in really strong.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough sometimes, and some women get offended when I say this, to sort of dial it back on the masculine energy after 6 o'clock or wherever on a date, and I'm not saying that everybody has to, but you have to understand that the men are not necessarily wired that way to have this sort of, tete-a-tete of machismo going back and forth. And so it's a challenge everywhere we go.
Interesting. I think it's interesting, even the question that's asked. What is the problem with dating in today's world? It's like it really pulls up where someone's consciousness is and what they're focusing on. And I would say that's the problem. So
yeah, I mean, it comes down to confidence and communication, no matter where we go. As I always say, it's never that you haven't met the right person yet. It's always that you haven't been the right person yet. And so once you sort of own your stuff and do the work and recognize what you need to do, that lets you let the walls down and lets other people in your world, and that leads to opportunities all over the place.
It's fantastic. What is love? How would you define love?
Well, I think that before you can find it, you need to define it for yourself. And everybody has their own personal definition of it, I think, or at least I think they should. My personal definition for me is when there's nothing I'm doing that I wouldn't rather be doing with her. Doesn't mean I have to do it with her, it means I'd rather do it with her. And when I feel that, that's very tangible to me, it means I know. Now, some people are like, I like that, but that's not quite my thing. It takes, a little bit of work and a little bit of introspection to say, how do I know what it is for me, and how do I recognize it when it's present for me? And I think that's an individual conversation.
Warner Earhart had a brilliant conversation and discussion about relationships years ago, and he debated kind of that exact thing, like if we're basing it off of our feeling, a relationship, like feelings come and go, and like he's like, love is just love. There's there is no definition of what love is. It just is, because he goes, relationship is really taking a stand for whatever it is that you are committed to creating with that person. Because I used to be that. I used to wait and go, I'm waiting for that feeling, and then you'd have that feeling, and then the feeling wouldn't stay. So I'm like, wait, is it that feeling, or what is that? And I think that so often we think we are our feelings, and we're not the feelings. They come and go. Feelings are not sustainable. So how do you know? How do you know if you have that feeling with somebody and you're like, I want to do everything with this person, but then what happens a few months later when you're just like, I kind of need a little space. I don't feel like I want to be around this person. So
it's not necessarily about being around them physically. It's sort of having them in your heart and in your world and in your mind and all those kind of things in a way that makes you feel better. In a way that a lot of people are like, I need to get into a relationship. First, you need to have a moment then you need to have a connection, then you need to work your way all up to sort of the end goal of that is partnership. And partnership is about communication, it is about growing, it is about change, it is about navigating up and downs, all these things. There's a lot of steps to it, and people forget that the first step really is the moment where a connection can happen. And there's 5 or 6 times every single day that you're going to be within 30 feet of somebody that if you just gave them the opportunity, and as I always say, get your head out of your apps, and connect with them, that the spark can happen.
So it's presence, really.
It's being recognized of the opportunities around you every single day of your life that you can act on, recognize, and not dismiss, where love can happen anywhere, anytime, every city.
Which is why I feel, and I want to hear your perspective, is why I feel that, you have to be able to practice that presence with whoever's in front of you in order for you to be even prepared to enter into a relationship in a way that's going to be fulfilling for you and the other person. Right?
Yeah, we're very, disconnected from each other now, and that we blame the technology, but somewhere along the line we all got a little bit confused about our place around each other, and so we need to sort of get back to being present in a moment, in an experience, or in a place where you can recognize all the people around you. Hi, guys.
What's the best way, do you think, for both men and women to recognize that love, to accept it, and then for it to last?
For it to last?
Yeah.
I think last you have to understand a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about what they do not like, do not want, do not need. And when you do that, you're much less effective about communicating what you do want, what you do not. All of us sort of want to make each other happy. We want to make the relationship happy. We want to make things work. We're just not nearly as good as expressing what we like as what we don't like. A lot of Yelp reviews are negative because people like to get that out of there. Same thing in a partnership. We're really sort of reluctant to say affirmative things because we never know how they're going to be received. And that is the key to everything, is to continuously say, here's what I want, and in a playful, fun, encouraging fashion, put the bar right here, and we will all jump to sort of meet whatever we need.
It's a good point. It's impossible to have a happy relationship if you're consistently focusing on the unhappy parts.
And it's tough to get a new one when you're constantly, we do hear a lot of people come to our shows, they believe that I'm the only one this happened to. And over the course of, an hour and a half and a couple hundred people, you realize it's happened to everybody. We're all the same. We've had 48 couples get engaged that we know of just from meeting at one of these shows.
That's so cool.
Because we bring all the walls down over 90 minutes because we're all sort of in the same boat. Love is the one thing that we all can relate to, have experience with, and I think want.
How do you, so if people have different definitions of love, how do you get two people who have very different definitions and therefore perceive or misperceive the action or non-action of the other person in ways that they're both blind to? How do you get them on the same page?
I think, I don't even know if they have to get on the same page. They just need to be in the same book, which means that you have to eliminate whatever the barriers are to find the love for whatever they're doing, for themselves, for another person, for a situation, and break those down. What is it from preventing me from going from 1 date to 6 dates to 5 years to whatever? And the patterns need to break. If you consider, it's like, I only date this type of person, or this keeps happening to me, or whatever, it is probably you. I mean, almost, it's not that you have bad luck. And you need to take ownership for your own dating fates. There's lots of good men out there. There's lots of good women out there. And everywhere you go, and you need to recognize them.
And everywhere you've gone and all these conversations you've had, has there been an aha moment, something you learned that you maybe didn't expect or has had the biggest impact on you?
Yeah, I think I recognize my own sort of walled-offness. Is that a verb or whatever? I really didn't know when I started out. A lot of times women think they understand women because they're a woman, and men think we understand men because we're a man. We don't. I really underestimated how many men were either angry or afraid of women because of something that may have happened 20 years ago. Like, she might just not even noticed you in junior high or something like that. And that still manifests itself, and it's hard to recognize. So part of me had to take ownership of, what am I walling off? What am I blocking out? What are my things? And then I did realize, like, we all are sort of exactly the same. It's just how we deal with it and process it.
Completely. Human beings are fascinating when it comes to relationships, and I believe that they're really for healing, therefore also revealing what works for us and doesn't work for us, and also for birthing whatever it is we're bringing to the world, whether it be children or art or whatever. But I think that so many people are looking for relationships to fulfill their senses, to fulfill and complete them, and to do all these things. It's really not sustainable, and it's sad. You know, in my opinion, because a lot of people are very frustrated and seeking for something that just really isn't, they're never going to arrive to. Hence, you know, we have a lot of divorce rate, and then the people who are in relationship, a majority of those are not, you know, doesn't totally work. So it's a really
A lot of people
interesting
stay in
area.
bad relationships because
Yeah.
they're afraid to be in no relationship.
And
They leave out the possibility of a good relationship. They think that that's so remote, and it's really not.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible to make a bad relationship a good relationship?
Sure. You can change your, the first thing you do about a bad relationship is figure out what is my part in this bad relationship. Because once you stop blaming each other and you start to share and communicate and do that, you can turn a lot of things around. You can turn a person around. It's about feeling safe in that environment to share and express and be vulnerable. That's going to lead to all sorts of good things, whether it's on a first date or 10 years into your marriage.
Do you feel like a critical part of that is also developing the self-soothing skills to be able to do that so that you don't have to continue to blame or project wrong into the other person, so you can see, you know what I mean? I think
Absolutely. We want to think, you know, it's not me. It's this. We go to a lot of places and we name every year like the best and worst cities in which to date.
That's interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And when we name the best city, which this year was
we're-
Minneapolis, and I was just there, they were so mad that I said it was the best place. They're like, oh, God.
Yeah, so it's our fault.
Then it's me. And when we say some place is the worst place, and sorry, Los Angeles, you're not the worst place, they love it. Because then it's like, oh, it's the city. It's not
Yeah.
me.
Right.
It's always you.
It's such a good point. And,
a great point.
And Drake's got a great line in his song Emotionless, but he's basically talking about how everybody in every city feels like their city is the worst city to date.
Yeah, because it's easier to blame the city, the environment, the atmosphere.
Right.
Take responsibility for whatever your dating situation or dating fate is, and you'll be a lot better off.
Love it.
Yeah.
Tell people where they can find and listen to you.
Go to greatlovedebate.com. We have our final show in Los Angeles this Sunday night at the Hollywood Improv.
Oh, nice.
You'll have a link there to our podcast. We have the top dating and relationship podcast. We have all sorts of good guests.
I love that it's in a comedy house because we got to lighten up a
Well,
little bit. about
two
this whole
reasons.
level,
A, it's
right?
funny, and B, there's alcohol. It goes a long way.
You need both when it comes to love.
Yeah, Hollywood Improv this Sunday night.
Super
So
cool.
great.
Check it out.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us,
Thanks, you guys.
Brian. We appreciate it. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more on Good Morning La La Land.